Hello friends, Stuff from CorkandMe.com here for City Magazine. This is the third of 3 recipes I provided in the April 2019 issue to help you throw the best Kentucky Derby party ever. And what party is complete without a dessert? Well, today we are making bourbon balls. Yes, my famous bourbon balls. And the first step to this, as all the ingredients are here, is to roast our bourbon-soaked pecans. So the first thing we're going to do is drain the bourbon off of these pecans, because we've only used half of it so far, and then put them on a pan here and roast them off for 12 to 15 minutes in a 300 or 325 degree oven. Hey, you know your oven better than I do, but we're gonna toast these, and what we want is, just basically a nice even layer here. We don't want anything stacked on top of each other. So we're gonna roast these off again for 12 to 15 minutes. You'll smell the baking, you'll smell the nuts, you'll smell the bourbon itself baking off. You want these mostly dry by the time you pull them out. So once again, 12 to 15 minutes. All right, friends, we've pulled our pecans out of the oven. As you can see here, we have our vanilla wafers already in our food processor. We're basically gonna pulverize the pecans and the vanilla wafers into a fine powder, and you can do all this at one time if you wait long enough. So that is exactly what we are going to do right now. All right, so you can see we have all of our vanilla wafers and pecans basically ground up into a fine powder. If you want, if you're using a food processor, go ahead and add your cocoa powder here. This is going to mix everything beautifully. All right, so you see we have our dry mixed ingredients here. Now we're gonna add the wet ingredients that are going to actually make our bourbon balls here. So we are going to add our bourbon. And once again, that's the half a cup we reserved from earlier and the drained bourbon we got off of our pecans. And then we're also gonna add our corn syrup, which is also going to help us, or help the mix to stay together as we mix it. Now, if you're afraid to get your hands dirty, wear some gloves, but this is a little bit of a messy thing to do here. And once again, I don't mind using my hands to do this. So basically, we're mixing in the corn syrup and the bourbon to get this dry mix moist and well incorporated together. Now, I have a parchment-lined plate here. Once we get all this mixed well, that we are going to use, and you see this is gonna stick to your hands. So what we're gonna do is pinch off a little bit of the mixture into our hands, and then start forming balls. Now it'll be difficult at first because you have a lot sticking to your fingers, but we're going to mix these up. We're gonna make about 1-inch balls or so, and they'll form fairly well once you start rolling them. That's a little large, actually. Keep in mind, we're doing straight bourbon in here, so when these things are actually served, they're gonna be fairly potent. We do have a cup of bourbon. Now each ball's, it's gonna taste more like bourbon than maybe intoxicating you, but this is what we're doing here. So we're just gonna make these balls. The parchment paper will help them not to stick to the plate. So we're basically gonna go through this for the entire batch here. You want your balls to be uniform, about the same size. Like I said, an inch and a half, give or take. So there we are. But let's go ahead and go to the next step. So our next step, and once again, I'm not going through all of the entire batch here, but next what we are gonna do is roll these balls in powdered sugar. And once again, put them back on a parchment paper lined plate. I like to use a bowl. I say roll, we're tossing them basically. We're just covering these with powdered sugar. Now, as these sit in the refrigerator, because of the moisture of the balls themselves, they're going to absorb a little bit of this powdered sugar here. So we do want the parchment paper down. And when we pull them out, we may roll them through more powdered sugar again. But once again, this is the basic step here. We're gonna put these in the refrigerator for no less than 2 hours before we pull them out and decide if we're gonna roll them in more powdered sugar. All right, friends, I've let these bourbon balls here sit in the refrigerator actually overnight, just to give you an idea of what they're actually gonna look like. You'll get a little bit of the crusting of the sugar over those. No big deal. Once again, you see a lot of the powdered sugar has absorbed on there. So we're just gonna toss these now, again, in some powdered sugar and then put on our serving tray. And this powdered sugar now, even if you refrigerate these after, for those that don't get consumed, this will actually stay more coated over the top instead of kind of soaking in, because what we've done is basically solidified. All right, the last thing to do is take a bite of one of these. Let's do it. And you can see here from the overhead shot, what you end up with is a nice cakey consistency after these sit in the fridge overnight. Delicious. You can use a little more or less bourbon if you want. These pack a nice little punch. Let's remember this is straight bourbon in here. We haven't cooked the alcohol out, so maybe don't let the kids get a handle of one of these. All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining for the videos here. I hope your Kentucky Derby Day is a fun one. Hopefully some of the food and beverages we provided over this series of videos will help you. In the meantime, visit me at corkenvy.com. Don't forget to pick up City Magazine on newsstands or at citymagazineonline.com for all the arts, entertainment, and cultural goings-on in Central and Southwest Virginia. All right, friends, have a great weekend and a great Kentucky Derby. Until next time, be nice, be safe, and be happy. Cheers.